Today, let's take on a tough question, which is how do you know when it's time to end a relationship? This can be really painful, especially if you've got a lot of your life invested with somebody and you love this person and you care about this person and you care about the life that you've built, but you're at this place where you don't know if it's actually the best decision to move forward. How do you know when it's time to end it and move on? And you might even be at the place where you're like, well, let's just wait and see. Let's wait and see if it just gets better. And the hard truth is, if you're not proactive about actually creating change, actually bringing a new vision to this relationship, the chance that it actually improves on its own is slim to none. And so you really have two options here. You're either going to end the relationship or you're going to make it better. Now, in all of my work with different therapists, what's the most common response when they say when to end a relationship is they'll often talk about something called the 3 A's. The 3 A's you really want to pay attention to, these 3 criteria, which are grounds for end the relationship as it is. And the 3 A's are addiction. So the person has a drug or alcohol or sex addiction, abuse, or adultery, right? They're cheating. So if you're experiencing one of these 3 A's, addiction, abuse, or adultery, in your relationship, you end the relationship as it is, you seek out a professional, and then you create and build something new together, or you just end the relationship altogether. But your partner has to agree. Your partner has to say, I'm willing to change, I'm willing to shift, and let's create something new. If your partner refuses, then that's a clear sign to end the relationship altogether. So those are the big ones: addiction, abuse, adultery. But what about some of the other signs? Like, what about some of the ones that are a bit more vague, a bit more debatable? You can say, where you're like, well, I could stay, or maybe it's time to leave. How do we know? And so I want to give you a couple of big examples of what to look for and how do you know when it's the end and it's time to leave. So one of the biggest differences is a divergence in values or a divergence in your vision for ultimately what you want. So a divergence in values is where you discover that you value different things, like the way in which you want to raise the kids, where you might have different philosophies about religion or different philosophies about parenting or about discipline or about money or about how you want to be together. And these are deep-seated values that the two of you are differing on, and you can't find a bridge. You can't find common ground. Neither one of you are willing to find a compromise in this. That can be a moment to say, okay, we're going to go our separate ways. Or a divergence in vision. And often these things go together. So an example is a friend of mine wanted the love of her life. She finally found him in her 40s, got married, and after a year of trying to have kids, because one of her deep dreams is to have a family, have children, they were having difficulty getting pregnant. And so she came to him and she goes, okay, well, let's try IVF. This is the next step in the process. And he goes, whoa, 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 whoa. IVF, no, I can't. I'm not doing IVF. That's against my religious beliefs. Now, she knew what religion he was, but they'd never had the conversation about whether or not IVF fit into that religion. And that became a major conflict between the two of them. There were also major differences that were also exposed that she just didn't know. And later she was like, how did I not know these things? And so what you want to make sure that you're doing is having really great, deep conversation with somebody before you choose them as a life partner. Well, how can you ensure you're hitting the right topics? There's a great book written by Susan Piver called The Hard Questions. 100 questions to ask before saying I do. I highly recommend this book. You don't have to ask all 100 questions, but go through and tackle the questions that you haven't yet addressed with your partner or your significant other, because it's really illuminating on the different philosophies for life and whether or not you have a shared vision and shared values or a divergent vision and divergent values. So now let's say you've got a gap in your values or your vision. How do you know whether or not the gap is too big to cross? Well, there's 2 things that you can look at. Number 1 is your life better with this person or without this person? As you assess and you feel, are you happier with them? Or are you actually happier when you're not together? You're happier when you're apart. Dr. Pat Allen will often say this: are you 51% happy or are you 51% unhappy? But is this person and the two of you together an added value for both of your experiences? And when you actually do an assessment and you look and you're like, you know what, I'm actually unhappy most of the time. And you don't see a path forward, you don't see a path where the two of you are growing or working with a counselor, then it's a great moment to move to step number 2. So it's, are you happy more than you're unhappy? And if you're not, go to step 2. And step 2 is, am I at the end? Are you at the end? And the end is this. Have you done everything that you know? If you're committed to this relationship, let's say it's a partnership or a marriage or a committed relationship, it matters to you. You don't want this to dissolve away without proper effort. At the end means you've done everything you know how to do to restore it. Everything you know how to do to rejuvenate it, to make it right. You've turned over every stone, so to speak. And you'll know you've turned over every stone when you've got a sense of peace, that you've done everything that you know how to do. You've sought out counseling. Maybe your partner is not up for it. You've worked on this for a while and it's just, there's too big of a gap between the two of you. And when you meditate and you really reflect on leaving, there's this sense of peace that you feel. A Course in Miracles will say, I know I've decided rightly because I am in peace. I know I've decided wrongly because I'm not at peace. That feeling of peace is a great indicator that you're moving in the right direction. So if you're at that place where you're like, Matt, I've done everything I know how to do. My life is not good with this person in it. I feel at peace moving on. Then the one idea that can really, really help you have the courage to do what you know you need to do and have that difficult conversation of ending the relationship is the idea of this. It's a spiritual principle, and it's called there's no private good. And what that means is if it really is good for you to move forward and end this relationship, it must mean that there's good in this for your partner too. It must mean that there's someone who is an even better fit for them down the road, that there's growth for both of you in this situation. And so if this other person doesn't want to end it, they're fighting for you and they are in pain, know this, if it really truly is good for you, there is also good in it for them, even though they can't see it in this moment. So you can stand in that truth, stand in that knowingness, and have the courage to take the step that's yours to take. My question for you is, how do you know when you're at the end of a relationship? What are the indicators? What are the feelings? How do you know when you're certain this is the end and you're ready to move forward? I invite you to go ahead and share that wisdom in the comment section below, because it's really going to help those who are watching this community who might feel like they're at a stuck point. And know this, there is an amazing love story that's got your name on it. I've seen relationships that seemed like they were at a huge gap. They'd gone through cheating, they'd experienced that, and they've overcome it and restored it and created something beautiful. And I've seen people make the decision, no, they are at the end, and both go on to find incredible love stories. So whatever decision is yours to make, know this, make that decision with clarity and courage, and on the other side of that is the love that you're seeking. Feel a big hug from me to you, and I'll see you soon.